Welcome to Student Exposure, a student production of DCTV. I'm your host, David Lanham, and thanks for joining us as we take a closer look at some of the unsung heroes living right here in our community. Today, we're going to share with you 3 stories. First, an amazing tale of an urban kung fu master. Next, a glimpse at a prolific young artist. And finally, an inspirational story of one of the first African-American female football coaches and her journey to the Turkey Bowl. Looks like we have a pretty exciting show ahead, so let's get started. In the middle of the U Street corridor is a tiny gem, the Hung Tao Choi Mei Leadership Institute. Founded by Kung Fu master Abdur Rahim Muhammad in 1995, this center is a hub for transforming young lives.
I take my work as a martial artist, an instructor, and a mentor for the children that come into the school. I take it very seriously. No buffoonery in my class, no buffoonery when I'm out in front of the students, no buffoonery in this art form, and I'm the same way in my personal life. You know, there's no buffoonery in Abdur Rahim Muhammad, but I think there's too much at stake. There's too much need for serious resolution to a lot of serious questions we have out here and issues that are confronting not only the black community, but my entire U.S. community, that I have to take life very seriously, and I do. In 1985, I had an opportunity to live and work in Cameroon, West Africa. And when I went, I was really excited about the opportunity. Everything that was built or developed in Cameroon was built to extract resources from the country and send to either Europe or other places in the West. Nothing in Cameroon, it appeared, was built solely for the development of Cameroonians. How is it possible that the same conditions I see in Africa, the same thing that I see at home? Do I stay in Africa, you know, trying to work, improve Africa, or do I come back to the U.S. and try to work in the city where I was born and try to improve conditions for the young people there? So I made a decision to stay here in D.C. and begin working here in D.C. And I knew that if I wanted to change Africa, develop a new generation of leaders. My greatest success has to be my experience with our competition team that toured mainland China and Hong Kong in 2009. When we got to the airport for the direct flight, it was probably 3 o'clock, maybe 3 o'clock in the morning, all right? When I arrived, most of the children were there. And this is the first international flight, the first international competition for the entire group of children and youth. And when I got to the airport, when I approached them and looked in their faces, and I saw their shining faces, I saw their eyes bright and clear, I saw the energy coming from them, I knew we had already won. Because we're not just a competition school, we're a youth development organization. And there's nothing that made me more proud and happy than to see these young children who, when I first opened here, they were the children that very few people thought worthy of their attention. But now they were energized and ready to go to take on the world, and that's what they did. When we competed in China, the first competitor for us was 6-year-old Jeremiah Raja. And he took the floor, and everybody got quiet to see the 6-year-old. And he performed magnificently. To end the competition or the performance there in China, we had to perform lion dance. So we got together and I said, look, what we need from everybody, you're going to be out there 5 minutes. I need the best 5 minutes of your life. And when they went out there to perform, winding down the performance, there was one particular movement where one of the children on one side, they did a movement, went down in a full split, held the line up over the head. The child in the middle, they jumped up, kicked their feet out, landed on the knees of the other child. And then on the other end, the performer went down in a low stance and shook their head, and everything happened right on time, precisely as it should. And then there was like quiet, like all the air had been sucked out of the venue. And I was waiting, it's either going to be a boo or it's going to be crazy cheers going through the roof. And that's what it was. We ended up winning on the tour 15 gold, 4 silver, and 2 bronze medals. And 6-year-old Jeremiah won 2 gold medals in a competition in Hong Kong.
Great story. Joining us in the studio today is Gene Richard Germain. Welcome to Student Exposure, Gene.
Thank you.
Now, Gene Richard, if you had a child between the ages of 6 to 13, would you enroll them in the Leadership Institute?
Yes. Mr. Mohammed have the skills, the experience for me to enroll 3 of my children in there. Yes.
Great. Now, do you feel there's a need for more programs like this to be established for the youth of DC?
When you see what's going on in the school around the United States and how many kids that go with guns and killing other kids in school because of no leaderships. So what Mr. Mohammed is doing here is to help our kids with the leadership that we need.
Thanks so much for stopping by. Through the dedication of Mr. Mohammed, Hung Tao Choi Mei is preparing the next generation of leaders through the martial arts. For more info, visit jowga.org. Well, this concludes another episode of Student Exposure, a student production of DCTV. I'm your host, David Lanham, and we're so glad that you joined us as we shared with you some of the unsung heroes and little-known tales about people living right here in our community. We hope these stories were informative, inspiring, and helpful to you. Thanks for joining us, and to watch future episodes of Student Exposure, check DCTV's programming listing at dctv.org.